Hey, what's going on guys, and welcome to our first main video of the year. Today, I'll be sharing my female K-pop favorites of the year so far. I made a poll a couple weeks back about what videos you guys wanted for June, so here it is. So real quick, this is purely based on my personal taste, so there's no right or wrong answers here, and more than likely will look different in part 2, which I will release in December. Here are the sections that I'll cover today, most of which are similar to the ones from last year, with the exception of the soloist category, just because there weren't that many that impressed me if I'm being honest. Anyway, let's kick things off with my favorite groups. So, these are the groups that have impressed me the most, not just this year, but have also exceeded my expectations coming off of last year. So, one of the first groups that came to mind was VVS. Last year, they really caught my eye with their debut Diamonds in My Mouth, and I instantly became a fan, mainly because of their focus on the rapping genre, and are like one of the only groups that I think would give Young Posse a run for their money. This year, however, they took their next project to Miami, which is my hometown, and we almost never get any attention from K-pop groups. I mean, I think the last time a girl group was down here was when NMIXX came here back in 2024, but more so for an event. But anyway, just their presence alone was awesome. I really appreciated how they represented that modern Miami flair, and their album Stay the Night was such a great summer release, and by far my favorite release from them as well. Now, I don't see them being contenders within the 5th generation anytime soon, but I would consider them a hidden gem. Next up is Meow. Probably more of one of my last minute picks when making this video. They came out with Bite Now recently, and I gotta say, they really blew me away with this release. I mean, I've always been impressed with their quality of work, but this just took things to another level. They've always displayed powerful choreography, great music, and I genuinely believe that this is their best work by far. I mean, every member showed out, giving us such an aggressive performance, and being that they're one of the most talented among the 5th generation when it comes to dancing, I think they just further emphasize that with i-dle. And I'll be honest with you guys, I think it's going to be very hard for anyone else to top this. Like, this is a highlight of the year, and hopefully it enters contention for a Performance of the Year award as well. But I think it's too soon to tell, and that's another reason why I don't have them any higher. It's because this literally came out a couple weeks ago, so we'll have to wait and see how it fleshes out in the coming months, but so far they've really impressed me this year. Now, above them, I've chosen LE SSERAFIM. I mean, if we really want to talk about consistency, quality of work, LE SSERAFIM has been all about it for years now. I mean, Pure Flow is like one of their biggest releases, and even though I wouldn't consider it their best work, it's still really impressive, especially compared to a lot of other releases. However, I do have some mixed feelings about their direction. For example, Boompala, like, it was pretty good but felt kind of gimmicky, similar to Spaghetti, which is a night and day difference compared to their songs Hot and Crazy. Even their music videos were strange, to say the least. I mean, look at Celebration, that shit was just straight up corny, and in Boompala was just random AI slop. But besides all of that, their B-sides were the hard carry here, no question about it. Songs like Sonder, Irony, Need Your Company, and Saki were some fantastic songs. Time and time again, they've proven to me that they make some of the best music out there, and I really hope that they avoid using AI for future releases, as I do think that they have one of the best discographies among the 4th generation, and their original creative direction was already on the right path. I'll also be seeing them in a couple months, so I look very much forward to that. Now, in 3rd place, I've gone with i-dle. This shouldn't be much of a surprise. I feel like ever since I talked about them on this channel, I've had nothing but great things to say about them, and by far, they still prove to me that they are leaders of the 5th generation. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce their album, but It's Me was a really good song, and their ballad, Love Older You, just might be my favorite ballad from them. And that's hard to say considering Pimple was such a masterpiece. So, similar to LE SSERAFIM, I think i-dle joins them as having some of the best ballads out there. Now, aside from that, they did have a couple other singles like Bubby and Sunday Morning. I personally found those to be forgettable, but their album more than made up for it. And I also really appreciate how aggressive they've been with their activity lately, as it looks like they are really pushing to become Daesong contenders, and hopefully they enter that conversation later this year. In second place, I've gone with NMIXX. Easily one of my favorite groups year in and year out since I started this channel back in 2024. They've shown significant growth in all areas: talent, artistry, accolades, and even popularity. With Heavy Serenade and Tick Tick, I'd say they're off to a strong first half for 2026. And ever since High Horse, it really feels like they've been carving out their placement within the fourth generation as becoming a rising leader. On paper, they were one of the top three girl groups from last year, and with that momentum, it's clear that they are pushing for serious contention and possibly a Daesong. And out of all the groups in the industry, I'm really rooting for NMIXX the most. I feel like they've been underrated for far too long, and I really want to see them achieve the highest honor for all their hard work. And I've noticed that they've been receiving a ton of support from fans, so I think real soon they could reach the likes of IVE and aespa. Speaking of aespa, in first place, I gotta go with them. I mean, talk about being consistently the most impressive group of the fourth generation. Ever since Drama, it really feels like they've never left their foot off the gas, and even though last year they didn't meet all of my personal expectations, they still proved to be one of the top groups. With Whole Different Animal and Lemonade, however, I feel like we could possibly see another run like they did with Armageddon. Just that darker theme reminded me so much of that era back in 2024, with Winter and Ning Ning in particular really thriving off of this style. The collab with G-Dragon, I mean, putting those two names together on the same song alone screams Song of the Year. Lemonade was such a massive release with so many options, and the replay value of the B-sides showed me that aespa are not fucking around when it comes to their quality of work. And stacking this up with all of their past albums, it's really close if you ask me, but I'll probably wait until the end of the year to make my final decision about this album. But comparing them with any other group on here, I don't think it's even close. Just their overall dominance overpowers anybody right now, and I can't wait to see them in September. But keep in mind, we still have another half a year to go through, so anything could happen. So those are my favorite groups of the year so far, and for the first time, I'll share some honorable mentions. Here they are. So we have IVE and IOI. IVE, they kicked off 2026 with Bang Bang, which was a fantastic single, but I personally wasn't a huge fan of their album Revive Plus. Like, it had some strong B-sides, but the solo songs to me were a miss. And even though I would still consider them one of the top groups, I think aespa is miles ahead of them at the moment. IOI came in really close for me, as this is my first time listening to their music. Their new album was such a great introduction, and I wouldn't consider myself a fan just yet, even though I am a fan of Somi's solo work. Probably one of the biggest surprises of the year for me so far, but for first impressions, I am interested in them moving forward. Great, so let's move on to the next section, and that's my favorite idols. One of the first that comes to mind, and most recently, is Ella from Meow. She is someone who really impressed me since day one, and has so far been one of the most consistent members of the group as well. She's a strong dancer, but to be fair, all of Meow share this quality, especially Suwon. But when it comes to maknaes, she's right up there with the likes of Chiquita as one of the strongest in the fifth generation in my opinion. What I really like about Ella, however, is that she performs with the confidence of a seasoned idol. A lot of maknaes that you see out there typically take a few comebacks or even years to reach that level, but I think Ella has already been there for a while now. Now, with her most recent release, Bite Now, I would have to say that this is by far my favorite comeback for her. I mean, Dideri's choreography, in my opinion, has to be one of the most unique this year, and probably one of my favorite choreos from Meow as well. But Ella just makes it look effortless, and she has convinced me as someone who belongs in that conversation as one of the rising idols of the fifth generation. Not to mention, mixing the hip-hop style with darker concepts is just a recipe for powerful performances, and she has shown us her potential with this comeback. Definitely an idol to look out for in the coming years. Now, after her is Kazuha of LE SSERAFIM. She is an idol who I think always had that impressive physical ability to become a standout member of the group, and ever since Hot, I think she's developed into a pillar of LE SSERAFIM. I mean, at times even, it really feels like she's been under the spotlight more, and I might even give her that center position. Some might say that she's reaching her prime, but I think she's just getting started. Now, clearly, I wouldn't really give her that star power of, let's say, Chaewon, for example, but Kazuha has shown a significant improvement lately, and with Pure Flow, it's one of my favorite comebacks for her in a while. Now, I still think that Hot is her best work, but regardless, I think she's done a standout job with Pure Flow. Above her is Yuna of ITZY. You know, going into 2026, I didn't really expect her to have her solo debut. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really love Yuna. I think she's a strong maknae. But when it came to ITZY's solo work, I always favored Yeji and Chaeryeong's songs over Yuna's. But I gotta admit, she impressed me a lot with Ice Cream. This has to be one of my favorite solo debuts in a while now. I don't know if I could consider this my absolute favorite, as I think Minnie and Chaeyoung still hold that title, but Yuna came really close. So her taste in music has more of a bright and playful vibe, which I liked very much, and it really fits her style. But when it comes to her artistry, I think her work on this album has been really impressive. From the title track to the B-sides, I don't see a single miss on here, as I've had all her songs on repeat. Now, there really isn't much in terms of variety, but for a solo debut, I'd consider this a success. Not to mention, her comeback with ITZY's motto was really good, though I think Yeji still is in a league of her own. But I have Yuna on here more so for her growth, and I'd consider her a highlight of 2026 so far. Now, in third place, I've gone with Ningning of aespa. I'd say she has shown a lot of development as an idol over the past few years, and ever since Whiplash, similarly to Giselle, she has proven to be a standout idol of the fourth generation. And to be fair, all of aespa at this point, but with Whole Different Animal and Lemonade, she really stood out to me. Her stage presence was really powerful and represents that dark theme of Whole Different Animal really well, and it reminded me so much of Armageddon, but shows her versatility through Lemonade. Not to mention, she really stands out with her vocals, and I'm still convinced that she's one of the most talented maknaes in the industry at the moment. I know last year she did get more of the spotlight, especially with Rich Man, but I wouldn't really call that one of her best comebacks. However, I think her Lemonade era has to be one of my favorites for her so far. And in second place, I've gone with Lily of NMIXX. I gotta be honest, guys, for a couple years now, I've always thought that it was between Haewon and Lily being the most dominant member of the group, with Kyujin not too far behind, of course, but for the past few comebacks, Lily has shown significant improvement. I mean, look at Blue Valentine, Tick Tick, and now Heavy Serenade. She's really giving off the vibes of being the center, and hell, she's even showing strong leadership qualities. Now, I'm not questioning Haewon's leadership, but I think Lily could be a strong substitute. But what I really noticed about Lily is her powerful performances, and I believe most of that is attributed to her confidence on stage. I think it's a lot stronger compared to her earlier days in NMIXX, and because of that, she's able to focus more, which naturally leads to a better execution. With all the hype behind NMIXX recently, I think she's really soaking it all in and giving it 110%. And by that I mean she's going all out, but also pushing herself just a bit further. And it's paying off, and I'm not gonna lie, I just might have to make her my bias. Like, I still love Haewon, but I mostly chose her for her Workman era, but Lily's just been impressing me a lot lately, so we'll see. So anyway, in first place, I gotta go with Winter of aespa. I'd say for the past few comebacks, I just haven't felt that same dominance from Winter like I did with Supernova and Armageddon, and with Whole Different Animal and Lemonade, I think she's back to her strongest form yet again. I mean, if there's anyone who truly owns that dark concept, it's gotta be Winter. Like I've said a few years back, Winter ate Armageddon alive, and I think with Whole Different Animal, she absolutely killed it. But also, I feel like the spotlight is back on her again, as I feel like with Rich Man and Dirty Work, It was more so on Karina and Giselle, and just generally throughout 2025. I feel like Winter was really underutilized. Now, Lemonade was such a strong comeback in general, and for me, it was really between Winter and Ning Ning for the top position, but Winter in her ultimate form is really hard to top, in my opinion. Now, here are the idols who were really close, with Narin honestly being a toss-up with Ella, and even though Ella has to be one of the most impressive maknaes of the fifth generation in terms of talent and potential, I would say this is also my favorite comeback for Narin. She is someone who I always felt was a step or two behind someone like Suin in terms of dominance, but with Dirori and Hiram, I think she kicked ass. I mean, besides her being the vocalist of the group, the moment she masters choreo, I think she could hit the status of an ace. The same can be said about Gawan, to be honest. Bite Now really allowed her to stretch her wings, as it was more of a darker slash aggressive concept, and seeing her perform, she is thriving with this style. Not only that, but she has more of the spotlight this time as well, so it just looks like 2026 is a big year for her growth as an idol. As for Kia, probably one of the biggest surprises earlier in the year, as I think she had a pretty solid 2025, but man, did she dominate with 404. I'd say she's another maknae to look out for moving forward. Following her is both Brittany and i-dle from VVS. I think they are both the front runners of the group and are honestly one of the most impressive rappers of the fifth generation as well. Probably not in the same atmosphere as Asa, of course, but impressive nonetheless. I'm actually having a hard time choosing my bias, as they both had a really strong comeback with Stay the Night, and more so with Bottles, where they showcased their powerful duo performance. And finally, Somi of IOI. Now, I know her mainly for her solo work, but I really liked her group work as well. Now, would I say she's my IOI bias? I don't really want to say that, as I'm still letting this comeback marinate in my mind, and I'd like to give the other members a chance, so hopefully I have an updated answer by December. Alright, so let's move on over to the next section, my favorite releases. I gotta admit, I'd say this year so far, there's been a lot of better releases compared to last year around this time. Now, I know last year had some masterpieces, but let's not forget, a lot of groups did not meet expectations, so this year, I think it was a lot harder to come up with a top 6, which is a good thing. Anyway, one of the first that really caught my attention, and probably the only solo album of the year so far that I really liked, is Yuna's Ice Cream. Like I've mentioned before, she really caught me by surprise this year, and out of the majority of solo debuts that we've seen over the past, let's say, 2 to 3 years, Yuna's is one of my favorites. I might even put this in the running against Yeji's solo album, but regardless, I have this entire release on my daily rotation, which is kind of rare for any of these releases. Would I call this a masterpiece? I think it's pretty close. I did really enjoy the B-sides, but the title track has to be my favorite. My only complaint is that there isn't a ton of variety on here. Clearly, she's more focused on that bright and playful type of music, which is totally fine, but comparing this to other albums, there's no ballads, no rap songs, and so forth. Regardless, one of my favorites. Now, a lot of you guys might disagree with this placement, and that's NMIX's Heavy Serenade. Like I've mentioned many times before, I think NMIX have been crafting some of the best music in the industry for a while, and if you're familiar with my content, you would know how consistent they've been in my top 3 every single year, and that's mainly because their artistry has been some of the best out there. But with Heavy Serenade, even though it was really close, I don't think I could call this my favorite release by them. Now, that's kind of telling, because even though it's not my favorite from them, it's still leagues ahead of a lot of other releases to reach my top 6, especially in a year where there's plenty of strong releases, so regardless, I would still consider this a good mini album. But more so about this release, I think songs like Crescendo, the title track, and especially Different Girl have been some of the best on here. But the rest of the songs just didn't hit as hard as previous B-sides from the past, in my opinion. I mean, I wouldn't really stack this up against some of their FE304 work, and definitely not against Blue Valentine. But again, it was still really damn good. It's just top to bottom, it wasn't as impressive as their previous work. Now, above that, I went with VVS and their album Stay the Night. easily one of the most underrated releases of the year, and to be fair, I feel like there were quite a few others as well, but I really chose this one mainly because I think it's their best release by far. I mean, it's kind of hard to top their debut release, but I really enjoyed the variety of songs on here, and even though it's mostly focused on the rap element, I think they've proven to be versatile with their music. Anywhere from the title track to the ballads, this album was very generous in terms of replay value, and I would highly recommend them if you haven't had the chance to check them out yet. Alright, so for third place, I've gone with aespa's Lemonade. Another really big release, and similar to Pure Flow, we have 11 songs to choose from, with great variety, though there is more of a focus on the hip hop element, and even though the title track and Whole Different Animal have the most attention, there are some hidden gems in here as well. Can't Help Myself, Shaken, and Camouflage, for example. So it's kinda in the same boat as Pure Flow, where there are so many options to choose from, but in aespa's case, I think the title track is infinitely stronger. Now, would I consider this one of their best releases? Probably. I still think that Armageddon is their masterpiece, but Lemonade comes really close. Now, in second place, I went along with LE SSERAFIM's Pure Flow. Now, I know a lot of people are bashing them for Boompala and Celebration, but I actually like them. Now, obviously, it's nowhere near their top 10, and definitely not the best songs, even on the album itself. But when Celebration released as a single, I found myself listening to it a lot. Boompala was pretty solid, though there is a remixed version that they released, the Yoonjin version, and I liked that one a lot better. But I never really talk about remixes just because it would literally double my work for no reason. And similar to aespa, it's a big release with great variety, and even though Lemonade had the stronger title track alongside Whole Different Animal, the B-sides really won me over on Pure Flow, and LE SSERAFIM are one of those rare groups that I can always count on to come out with well-polished B-sides, and that's going all the way back to their debut, which is impressive, as I can't really say the same for the great majority of groups that I cover. Again, songs like Sonder, Irony, Need Your Company, and Saki all are some songs that I've had stuck in my head for weeks now. The replay value here is generous, and it covers multiple styles for different moods, which I love to see, so well done. And finally, in first place, I've gone with Meow's Bite Now. One of the smaller releases on here, but also I think one of the most well polished. What I always appreciated about Meow is that they don't rush any of their work, and I hope they keep it that way. I would much rather prefer less songs of higher quality rather than the other way around. And with this mini album, even though it's not much, I'd say it packs a serious punch. For starters, the title track was easily the highlight here, but also I think their ballad of Revenge was fantastic. And I might even put it on the same level as Toxic, which has been my go-to ballad from Meow for a minute now. The rest of the B-sides were just as strong, especially the song Hit 'Em, which feels very similar to their past work, and it's another release where I have every song on my daily playlist. So, those are my top 6, and here are the honorable mentions. A lot of other ones that were really close, but at the end of the day, I can only choose 6. Probably one of the closest ones was ITZY's Motto. To me, it felt very reminiscent to Born to Be in the sense that there was both group and solo work, but at the same time, I wouldn't really call it my favorite, and similar to Heavy Serenade, like it was really good, but I wouldn't put Motto ahead of their past work like Tunnel Vision or even Collector. I know that they've been getting a lot of praise for their title track, but I think the solo work was more impressive. The group B-sides were also pretty decent, with You and I being my favorite. Like, it was a great release, but I just enjoyed these other 6 a bit more. i-dle's album was also really close, but like Motto, I don't think it was as good as their previous work. Like, the only songs that really stood out to me on here were It's Me and especially Love Older You. The rest of the songs were great, but not the very best in my opinion. IUI's Loop was also really good, especially as an introduction to the group, but it didn't scream highlight of the year for me, and I just didn't catch myself returning to this album that much besides the song Suddenly. And finally, 50/50 with Imperfect, probably one of my favorite releases from them so far besides Day and Night. Another smaller release that packed a punch, but I just felt like the releases in my top 6 offered more. Alright, so let's move on over to probably my favorite section this year, and that's my favorite collaboration. This year was a big year for collaborations, and it feels like we're seeing more groups and idols branching out and connecting with other artists than ever before, which is a great sign as I feel like it really opens the door for more fans. And with the industry's rapid growth, I can definitely see this becoming a major contributor to K pop's global expansion. So, one of the first collabs that comes to mind is Jihyo and Genevieve for their song Heavenly. I remember seeing Jihyo tease this song a bit on her Instagram story a while back, and I instantly fell in love with it. It has a very chill, laid back summer vibe, and I think Jihyo did really well. Now, even though this was a feature, I would say it really left me wanting more music from them. Not only that, but it's been a little while since Jihyo has, released any solo work. Now, obviously, this has no correlation to that, right? But I'm just saying in general. I mean, I would like to see her put out more solo songs. I know she had a solo song last year on Twice's album, but I'm just saying, I would like to see her, make some solo work once again. Next, I've chosen aespa and Anderson .Paak for their song Keychain. Probably one of my most played songs of the year so far. I instantly had this song stuck on repeat. The beats were banging, it was really catchy, and I think aespa did a great job on their part. As for Anderson .Paak, and yes, that same Anderson .Paak from almost a decade ago on that freshman cipher that he did with Designer.
I'm fucking the flesh like to cope with the pain. Pause.
Big shout out to him because he's collaborating with so many idols right now and making some really good music. And speaking of Anderson .Paak, the next song is him with NMIX for the song Caution. I really love seeing NMIX take on that hip hop style, and I think with this one, it might be one of my favorites. I'd still probably take Different Girl and Sicko over this, but it came really close. NMIX are going really hard with their music, and with Pablo Vittar and now Anderson, I think it's gonna keep going, and hopefully this inspires other groups to do the same. Now, in third place, I've gone with aespa and G-Dragon for their song Whole Different Animal. Without question, two of the biggest names in K-pop today. I had super high expectations for this song, and even though I think it was incredible, I think it could have been so much better, especially on G-Dragon's part, as I feel like his participation was short-lived, and he didn't even appear in the music video, which was a bit of a letdown. Regardless, I really liked the song, and if he had more lines, I feel like this could have easily reached first place. For second place, I've gone with Jennie and Tame Impala for the song Dracula. I think what a lot of people forget is that this is actually a remix feature of their original song that came out last year. However, I'd say Jennie played her part really well on the song, and similarly to Keychain, I had this on repeat for weeks when it dropped. And it was such a huge song. I kept seeing it on my feed and I just couldn't escape it. But either way, it was such a great song, and it could be Song of the Year if I'm being honest. And Jennie has collaborated with a good handful of artists already, so I'm kind of left wondering who will be next. And finally, in first place, and this is another last minute pick, is i-dle's, LE SSERAFIM's, and Cat's Eye's song Iconic by Mistake. I mean, talk about a sucker punch of a release. This literally came out of the blue, and it instantly screamed collab of the year. See what I'm talking about? This is the kind of stuff I want to see more of in the industry. Having features is one thing, but these full-on group collabs is like a shooting star moment in the world of K-pop. And that powerful diss track theme really was putting their foot on the neck of all of their haters, and I loved every second of it. They were talking their shit, and I'd say it's about fucking time, since a lot of these quote-unquote fans have been yapping about them for years now. The song itself was really cool actually, and I loved seeing i-dle finally step outside of the Y2K concept, as an aggressive i-dle is something I've been wanting to see for a while. What sucks, however, was that Mocha was absent, and it would have been better to see a complete i-dle. I think LE SSERAFIM was also really great, though I wasn't too surprised as I was with i-dle. Now, this is probably like the only time I'll ever talk about Cat's Eye. I know I've had comments over the years to mention them in my videos, but I don't, simply because they're not K-pop. Now, obviously, I know they're very similar and arguably within the same stratosphere, but they're a global group. If I started talking about them, then I'd have to include XG and a whole bunch of other groups, and it would literally be too much for me. But anyways, as for Cat's Eye, I think they did really damn good on this song, as I feel like the style aligns more with them. And even though I'm not particularly a fan, I would say this collab has opened that door of curiosity for me to give them a second glance at their music, so we'll see how that goes. Now, as for some of the honorable mentions, NMIX and Pablo Vittar for their song Tick Tick, this is their second collaboration, and even though it was really good, I still think that Mesh was stronger, which was their collab from last year. Not gonna lie, it took me a couple tries to like this song, as initially I wasn't a fan of how excessive the chorus was, and quickly I found it repetitive, but besides that, this song is great. What I really liked about this, though, is that NMIX went out to Brazil and attended one of their festivals to film their music video, which was really cool. Now, obviously, Pablo Vittar and NMIX have this relationship of working together, and I have a feeling that they'll keep making music together further down the road, which is great because they have a huge fan base in Latin America. And another song with Anderson .Paak, but featuring Soyeon of i-dle for the song International. A bit heavier on the rap element, and I think Soyeon did pretty good, but I don't think I could stack it up with anything in my top 6. Alright, let's shift things over to easily the hardest section, my favorite songs. Similarly to the releases, there was just way too many fantastic songs to pick from. So one of the first for me is i-dle's It's Me. What can I say? I genuinely enjoy these types of songs, and for the first try, I think i-dle has done a standout job. This song feels like highlight of the year and maybe even song of the year, and I might even consider this a top 10 from them, which is really hard for me to say considering that I've been really impressed with their entire discography since their debut. After that, I chose IVE's Stuck in Your Head. This was a B-side from their Revive Plus album, and even though I wasn't like the biggest fan of their album top to bottom, this song was definitely a diamond in the rough. I was even considering Fireworks, but this song was literally stuck in my head and might be one of my most played songs of the year so far. You know, a lot of people gravitate towards IVE's title tracks, but I think they've been killing it with the B-sides for their last few comebacks. Now, would I put this in their top 10? Not even close. I think IVE has so many other songs that overpowers this, but I could see it within their top 20, but I might even push that to 30 because their discography has way too many good songs. Next, I've chosen NMIX's Different Girl. Another one of those songs that I feel like everyone overlooks, kind of like Sicka way back during Stick Out. And I think NMIX low-key are pretty good at making hip-hop music, and this song left me wanting more from them. I know they've been pretty much tapping into all sorts of music styles recently, but I would love to see them try something more aggressive and powerful one day. And I can't lie, I know I've had Heavy Serenade within my top 6 earlier, but if I'm being honest, Different Girl was the hard carry for me, and without it, I don't think I would have placed that release, probably not even in my honorable mentions. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how much I really enjoyed this song. So in third place, I've gone with aespa's collab with G-Dragon for the song Whole Different Animal. Now, I've already covered this song, but if there's anything else, I think aespa really excels at making Song of the Year caliber music. And to me, this deserves to be in that conversation for 2026. Now, obviously, Lemonade is another song to consider, but again, just based on my personal taste, I like Whole Different Animal slightly better. More so for its powerful execution, but also just the collab alone makes it so iconic to me. Now, in second place, and honestly, this was a toss-up for first place, it's i-dle's Crow. This is the i-dle that I'm familiar with, especially after a few years of them having subpar releases in my opinion. It feels really good to see them dishing out some top shelf work. Crow has such a badass and rebellious vibe to it, and it really feels like they're in their element with this song. Soyeon in particular really showed out by kicking off the song with her strong rap verse, and I'd say she still proves to be one of the most impressive idols of the fourth generation. Is it some of i-dle's best work? Kinda hard for me to say, especially because they're loaded with so many bangers, but I think it's fair to put Crow in that conversation. And finally, in first place, and this may surprise some, but I had to go with Meow's Diruri. Throughout the entire year, I haven't felt a ton of songs that were as captivating as this one. Would I say this is their best work? Abso-fucking-lutely. Like I've mentioned a bit earlier, I really loved the concept behind this song. The beats are heavy, the rapping was powerful, and combining that with their strong vocals, I'd consider this their masterpiece. Now, I will say, the concept has more of a vintage horror type of theme, and it really reminds me of something like Frankenstein or even the Addams Family in some ways. And in my opinion, they really should have saved this for a Halloween release. Regardless, I think it's gonna be very hard for anyone to top this song, at least on my list. Now, on to the honorable mentions, and like I said, there's plenty of others that came really close. One of those, I know a lot of you guys will probably disagree with, and that's Blackpink with their song Go. Look, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and to be fair, it's nowhere near their best work, but it's something about that bridge, the suspense of the song that really keeps me listening to it. The rest of the song has more of an electronic slash dubstep element, quite similar to Jump, and I think that song in particular has inspired other groups to take a similar path. For example, It's Me and Celebration, which are other songs that I've enjoyed that a lot of people would have mixed feelings about. I don't know, maybe it's because I used to listen to a lot of dubstep back in the day, so these songs are sort of a bit easier for me to listen to. Regardless, I would still consider this song a highlight of the year. Irony by Le Seraphim is another. I can't even lie, I low-key could have placed the entire B-sides of Pure Flow on here, but I don't really want to overwhelm you guys with such a massive list. But out of all of them, this one really took the cake for me. I like how hard-hitting it was, and this is the side of Le Seraphim that I like to see. Not their absolute best work, of course, but definitely one of my favorites from them so far this year. Mono was really close and is easily my favorite song from i-dle from probably the past 2 years besides Crow. If you're familiar with my content, you would know that I just haven't been the biggest fan of their work lately, and this song has shown me that they still got it. Now, I am crossing my fingers that this level of work translates over to their next comeback, but we'll have to wait and see. Crescendo would probably be my other favorite song from Heavy Serenade besides Different Girl. I love how dynamic their songs have become in recent years, and I don't really see anyone else out here doing it like them. Lemonade has to be the song of the summer, and it's definitely miles ahead of anything from last year. I think they're back on track with putting out some great music. Now, I don't know if I would put this in their top 10 just because they have so many 4th gen classics that would be really hard to beat, but so far, I'm really impressed with aespa. Kiki's 404 honestly was such a strong way to kick off 2026, and I would definitely consider this their best work by far. Now, I know their discography is pretty small, and we'll have to see how it shapes up in a couple years, but I think this holds the top spot at the moment, at least for me. IOI's album was really strong from top to bottom, but I think Suddenly is in a league of its own. This is one of those songs that I have been playing daily, and I really love the nostalgic atmosphere they created here, and this song in particular is the reason why I'm diving deeper into their discography. Easily one of the most underrated groups out there, especially for the quality of work, is Racine, and Pinball was a great example. And personally, I find pretty much the whole discography as a hidden gem, and I think they deserve so much more attention. Let's move over to the next section, and that's my favorite choreo. With one of the first ones being Rude from Hearts to Hearts, I think a lot of people really underestimate their dancing abilities, and even though they're not super explosive like Itzy or Le Seraphim, I think they really excel with their synchronization and have razor sharp movements. What makes it more impressive is that it's between 8 members, and Rude was a great example. I think Rude was a fantastic way for them to enter the new year, and the choreography was the highlight for me. Would I say it's their best? Almost. I'd probably still put Style and The Chase ahead of it, but I think it's definitely top 3. After that, I've gone with IVE's Bang Bang. I haven't really been super impressed by an IVE choreo in a little minute, so this is definitely refreshing. I really liked how dominating this was, and in my opinion, I think Licio was the center here, which is great because for a while, I felt like she was being underutilized. I like how dynamic it was. There was a lot of moving parts. Every member got a chance under the spotlight. And I would say this is one of their more powerful choreos in a long time. Now, with that said, I don't think it's even in their top 10, as they're loaded with choreos that I would consider classics in the fourth generation. Above that, I chose aespa's choreo for a whole different animal. I think aespa doesn't get enough credit for their dancing skills, and with this performance, I think they really proved why they are leading the fourth generation. The song was amazing, the big name collab, and the choreo was the cherry on top. This performance was pretty heavy on the background dancers, and whenever we see moments of the spotlight focusing on one member, it really makes them stand out. I also really liked the little playful part they've implemented, which is that one TikTok dance of that cat or whatever. I thought that was pretty funny, but overall, I would say this has been one of my favorite choreographies from aespa in a little while. Now, is it their best? Maybe. I'd probably put it out just outside their top 10, but it was great regardless. Now, coming in third place, I've gone with Kiki's 404 New Era. Like I've mentioned earlier, it was a great way to kick off the new year, and I think since day one, they've been some strong dancers. This is definitely my favorite choreo from them so far, and I feel like every member got a great chance to show off their skills here. But I will say, to me, the star of the show was easily Kia. I mean, I feel like last year she showed hints of her potential, but with 404, I think we're starting to see Kiki push her more. And by that I mean she's taking on more of that center role, kind of similar to what i-dle has done with Iroha. Even though the vibes of this performance was more bright and had that summer aesthetic, I think Kia definitely made it look so powerful. Not just with her dancing, but also her vocal execution, and I think she's one of those maknaes to look out for in the fifth generation. Either way, this is Kiki's best work so far. Now in second place, we have i-dle's It's Me. What can I say? I think i-dle once again has claimed that 5th gen leader status from me because they just keep dominating. And let me say this, I think they're actually some really strong dancers. I mean, think about it. They have probably the strongest dancer in the 5th generation, Iroha, and I feel like ever since Jellius, they've really stepped up as a group. Some might even say that Iroha was the inspiration because around that time, she was really blowing up. But It's Me by far might be my favorite choreo from them. Now, it's no magnetic, of course, but I think it's probably in their top 3. I still really like Do the Dance a bit more, but It's Me comes in really close. Now, every member did really well, but I think Yuna surprised me the most here. As before, I wasn't really super impressed with her dancing in particular, but I think she has been improving a lot lately. But I gotta give Iroha and Wonhee props here because I think they ate this choreo alive. Alright, so in first place, and once again, I had to go with Meow's Dirori. So at this point, it's kind of obvious how much of an impact this song has made on me, as it basically topped all my categories, and to me, this signifies that this is their best comeback. If we want to talk choreo, Meow always comes through, and I like how powerful their performance was here. It also fits the theme of the song really well, and I gotta say it again, this should have been a Halloween release, as they're really soaking in that horror theme in all areas. Is it the best choreo? Most definitely, and that's kind of hard to say, as I think all of their past choreos have been pretty damn good, especially last year with Hands Up, and Diruri in my opinion tops that. Now as for some of the honorable mentions, Le Seraphim's Celebration comes to mind first. I really liked how different this was compared to pretty much any Le Seraphim choreo that they've ever had, but I gotta admit, the whole head banging part was cool, but if that's the reason why Chaewon has to sit out, then I hope they change that out with something else. Kiss of Life's Who Is She was also pretty damn good, and very similar to Meow and Le Seraphim, they always deliver some of the best choreography. Now, I wouldn't call it their best work because they're just loaded with them, but I would consider this a highlight of the year. Now, let's move along to the next section, my favorite ballads. One of the more underrated song types out there, as everyone focuses more on title tracks, I personally chase ballads more than anything. One of the first is IOI's Then, Now, and Forever. Like I've mentioned earlier, this release was a great intro to the group for me, and both this ballad and the song Suddenly left a strong first impression. They lean more towards that old school style of K-pop, which It's kind of refreshing compared to most of the new stuff out there. And this feels more like a traditional ballad, and the vocal work on here was very nice. Now, one thing that I've noticed about IOI is that they have more Korean lyrics than most groups of today. I know some fans find that more appealing. I have noticed every once in a while in my comment section that you guys don't like the idea of groups singing in English. I personally wouldn't mind it either way, but at the end of the day, it is K-pop, so if they all decided to sing in Korean, I low-key wouldn't mind. Now, another song that I had in mind was 50/50's Carry On. Like I've mentioned earlier, this release has to be my favorite from them so far, but it was the ballad that really carried it for me. I gotta say, 50/50 has been really impressive with their vocal work lately, and they have showcased it really well on this song. I liked this song so much that it just might be my favorite song from them, though I would still give Work of Art the slight edge. Above that, I went with Young Posse's Pilot, one of the earlier releases of the year, and to this day, I listen to it daily. I think Young Posse have been making some incredible ballads lately, and I really wish that they received more attention for their quality of work. Now, their vocals aren't like on the same level as 50/50, of course, but I really love the vibes of this song, and I would easily place this within my top 10 favorite songs from them. So, in third place, we have Meow and their song Revenge. At this point, it really feels like there's a Meow entry in every category, and that's because this was such a standout release from top to bottom. For so long, Toxic has been like the only ballad from them, and it really feels good to have another. They're one of those groups who I feel like should really start making more ballads. For example, i-dle and Young Posse, even though their focus is elsewhere, I think they excel in making ballads. Similar to the title track, this is easily one of my favorite songs from them, and I'd consider it a top 5. Now, in second place, I've gone with i-dle's Love Older You. It's been a minute since we got a hard-hitting ballad from them like Pimple. Similar to La Seraphim's Need Your Company, it has that build-up factor. Obviously not as powerful, but it's done really well. Now, is it their best song? I think it's really hard to say, since I believe pretty much every single song that they've released was top shelf quality. Either way, I'd probably still take Pimple over this, but it's easily one of my favorites this year. Now, in first place, I've gone with La Seraphim's Need Your Company. It shouldn't be much of a surprise that a La Seraphim ballad is this high in my ranking, and it feels like every year they make it as one of my top ballads because out of most of the groups within the fourth generation, I think they make the best ballads, probably even in all of K-pop. And that's me saying that after listening to so many other groups over the past few years. This would be my fourth year though. What I really love about this ballad is the build up on the instrumentals on top of their soft vocals. The way it explodes halfway through just makes it feel so dramatic. Easily one of my favorite ballads from them. Would I consider it their best? Possibly. I think it deserves a spot within the top 5. Now, out of all the sections of this video, we have no honorable mentions. Now, I will say, there are some out there that were decent, but none of them came close to these 6. And now for our final section, my favorite hip-hop songs. I feel like this year we've been seeing a lot more groups take a swing at this style of music, at least compared to last year. One of the first that comes to mind is aespa's Shaken. This is from their Lemonade album, and it kind of feels like most of their B-sides were focused on this style, but this one definitely stood out the most to me. The beats were loud as fuck, and it's such a catchy song. It's nowhere near Lemonade or Whole Different Animal, of course, but I think it deserves to be mentioned. After that, we have VVS with Vamos. This is probably one of their most hard-hitting songs out at the moment, and it really has that strong early 2010s vibe to it, which is very nostalgic to me, but at the same time, I think this song was made to be played at a concert, and hopefully they get their shot one day. I mean, their whole album had songs that honestly could earn a spot on here, but again, I don't want to overwhelm this section with just one group. Next is NMIXX's Different Girl. Like I've mentioned before, I really think NMIXX has that untapped potential when it comes to that hip-hop theme, and come across to me as solid rappers. Sika for so long has been like the only hip hop song from them, and I still listen to that a lot, but Different Girl has earned its spot in my daily rotation. Now, in third place, I've gone with another VVS song, but this time it's Bottles. Easily highlight of the year for them. This song was a duo performance between Britney and i-dle, and I would say this song in particular really made me a fan of these two as they dominated from start to finish. I'd consider this a top 3 song from them, but at the same time they're loaded with rap heavy songs if that's more your style, which I would highly recommend. So in second place we have Young Posse with Visa. You already know when it comes to this category, we can't go wrong with Young Posse. It really feels like their element, and with Visa, I think they kicked so much ass. I also really appreciate how long the song is, with 4 minutes of non-stop bars and banging beats. And looking back at all of their releases, they've consistently dropped so many bangers, and I think they deserve a lot more credit for their work. And now in first place, I'm kind of tired of mentioning this song, but I gotta give it up to Meow's Dillery. I feel like I've already said everything on my mind, but damn, they really just took me by surprise this year and crafted such a masterpiece with this song. Would I consider this an instant classic within the fifth generation? I think it's too early to say, but it's definitely a song that'll come to my mind years down the road when looking back at 2026. Meow has proven to me that they could shape up to be one of those groups that can really do it all, from their choreo, ballads, top shelf releases. I mean, this year really looks like a critical year for their growth, and hopefully they reach contender status within the fifth generation soon. Now, similar to the last section, no honorable mentions, and there were actually a ton of other songs, but a lot of them just didn't do it for me if I'm being honest. And there you guys go, my K-pop favorites of the year so far, and also the first main video of the year. I gotta say, this has been one of the most difficult favorite videos that I've made since I started this channel. I mean, there were just way too many strong comebacks this year, and that's why I added the honorable mentions. Like, even though some of them didn't make it into my top 6, I still wanted to talk about them. Now, this was also one of the easier videos of the year, considering that it's just me sharing my personal favorites, whereas the next video, I will be doing a tier list of all the releases so far, so be on the lookout for that. So with that in mind, what are some of your K-pop favorites of the year so far? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're new here, I do make these type of videos every month, and it's just for fun. I don't claim to be a professional or anything. I'm simply just a K-pop fan sharing his opinions. Now, I do run community polls every day if you'd like to participate in those discussions. And I also have a shorts channel if you're interested in K-pop memes or some of my top 10s. I'm not as active on there as I am on here, but thought I'd just throw that out there. That said, if you enjoyed the video, then please drop a like, as that does help me out a lot here. And if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, then consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.